see, tomorrow's going to be 4 weeks already. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it. So we have Jaime, who's going to be giving us her birth story. She's a yoga mama, so take it away.
Okay. So I just love Patricia and everything she does. I met her first up at the Yoga Works in LA and have since delivered my first baby with her when I was doing yoga. That was 4 years ago. And then we have since moved down to Orange County and we were pregnant with our second one. And I just had to reach out to Patricia again to help me prepare for this next delivery. And so we were able to connect on Zoom and do some yoga sessions before this delivery. So yes, this is now my second baby. And we had a long, rough road. I shared with Patricia earlier. It was like about 2 years to get pregnant with this guy. And so my little miracle baby, and so blessed to be sitting here holding him right now. So let's see. So my due date was November 16th, and we ended up delivering on November 19th. So given my birth story, I actually don't think he was ready. I think he would have hung out a little bit longer. So I think there were some elements that kind of pushed the process along. So, but we were certainly feeling like things were ready. I was having all those regular minor contractions from home, starting probably right around, well, thank goodness, because the other part of my story is I actually had COVID at 38 weeks pregnant as well. So this little guy's a warrior. We beat that, and thank goodness. I had about 3 days of like feeling like, okay, I'm mostly myself. I feel like I can deliver this baby now. So that took us pretty much right up until our actual due date, and was feeling those minor contractions. Went to see my doctor. She said that I was like 1.5 centimeters dilated, and let's see that, but I was having on the monitor like those regular contractions. And so she swiped my membranes because we kind of wanted to get things moving. My husband, at this point, he helped me recover from COVID, and then we were like waiting for the baby. He had to go back to work. At this point, we were looking at like he was going to have 1 week home with the baby if we delivered that week. So there was a little bit of like that time pressure on that end too, because I wanted my husband home. I needed my husband home. So anyway, so she swiped the membranes. That was on the Tuesday, the 16th, the actual due date. And, we went home. We started, feeling, more consistent. They were getting a little bit more intense contractions, but super minor, nothing that was really crazy, but everybody's waiting. When are you going to deliver? When are you going to deliver? So we had my mom come and pick up my other little man Wednesday night, because we figured like, okay, at this point, something has to happen. And so Thursday around noon was when it felt like my water broke. It wasn't a ton of water, but it was one of those things where it was like, well, let's call the doctor and just make sure. And so when we talked to the doctor, she said, yeah, go to the hospital. They assessed me at the hospital. I guess they can run a test to see if it actually is fluid. And although the line on the test came out very small, very like light, they said, nope, it's definitely fluid. So you're going to stay here at the hospital. And then at that point, that is kind of like what put us on the time clock, right? So with my first one, I guess I can preface with my first one, my goal in delivery is to have a natural, or I should say an active drug-free delivery. And I, of course, wanted to go vaginal as I did with my first. So, and I was able to have the drug-free delivery with my first. So I think the big difference with him, with this guy here, is that my water broke at home, so we think, and put us on that time clock. So now the doctors immediately were like, you need to deliver this baby in 24 hours, or you're looking at possible infection and your baby could go to the NICU. So, you know, my husband and I know all the strategies of like, ask the questions. Is this important? Do we have to do this now? Can it wait? So we basically bargained for like 6 more hours to see if my body was gonna, really kick into, dilating and, more intense contractions. And after that 6 hour mark, we were pretty much still at the same place. So then we were like, okay, I mean, they gave us a percentage of like 85% of women end up with an infection if they don't deliver in 24 hours. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, do I, do the Pitocin and start pushing, that direction, which I did not want to do, or do I risk having a baby that I have to hand over to the NICU? And so I was like, all right, it's more important that, we have a healthy baby. So I agreed to start the Pitocin, and I think it was just a downward spiral from there. um, so basically they started me very small. I was like, do we have to like, I don't want to just like pump me full of Pitocin. They started very small. And, again, just minor changes. Contractions were picking up. I barely got to like 2 centimeters. And then maybe it was like, oh my gosh, at what point did I get to 3 centimeters? I mean, we were looking at like the next morning, and the nurse who was checking me all night was saying like, I feel like there's another bag in there that's holding up the delivery. Like sometimes that happens. And so as she checked me and I was at like 3 centimeters, she's like, yeah, I can feel a bag in there. So she said, let me call the doctor and we can rupture that bag. Because at that point, I want to say the contractions were then feeling pretty intense. And I was shocked I was only at 3 centimeters. Because again, I had a drug-free delivery and I know what it felt like with my first. And so this was definitely a lot more intense of those feelings of contractions. And so anyways, the doctor came in, ruptured the membranes. I felt almost like an immediate relief of like pressure, just like, oh my gosh. So that took a lot of the pain away. And she was like, okay, you're going to have this baby in like 20 minutes. Like things are going to get moving here. I'm like, okay, great. And so sure enough, a couple hours later, those contractions were like maxing out at like my level of 10. And again, I felt this, and I know when I kind of got to my max pain level with my first, I was like, okay, I'm about to throw in the towel, and the doctor had said 10 centimeters. And I was like, okay, good, I can finish this. But this time the doctor came in, or the nurse, I should say, and told me I was only at 4 still. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So at that point, it was like, all right, we got a long ways to go. My husband seeing me suffer, I was not doing well. And so they started talking to me about the possible pain medications, pain management. And so I guess they can give you like an IV of something Federin. I don't know. It didn't sound good to me. So the epidural was the next fentanyl. There you go, fentanyl. And so I haven't researched fentanyl much. It sounded a bit like an intense drug that I probably didn't want in my system personally. So we talked about the epidural options, and I'll just be honest, I'm a type A control freak. And so like the feeling of being like numb or not having control of any part of my body is very scary to me. So that's probably one of the main reasons why I just generally in my life stay away from anything drug related. So anyways, we talked to the doctor, kind of took care of some of my fears about getting that epidural. So we did the epidural. It gave me a break. So I was able to like take a little bit of a nap and like breathe a little bit and kind of like come back to center. And then I want to say they really pumped the Pitocin up at that point. But interestingly enough, it seemed like I don't know if the epidural didn't take, but I think they said they were supposed to the contractions are supposed to stay at about like a level 1-2 pain. And it shot up like 3, 4, 5, 6. And by the time we called the nurse in to be like, what's going on? It was like way back up to where I had started from. And so then the doctor, the nurse called in the anesthesiologist to give me a little bit more. And I couldn't get back to that like 1-2 level. It was like maybe a 3, 4, and it kept shooting back up. I don't know if, I mean, the contractions were coming and I was dilating so quickly at that point. And so finally, we called the nurse in and I was just feeling that level 10 pain. And finally she said I was at 10 centimeters dilated. And I know, thank goodness we finally got there. So, I mean, we were looking right at like just over 24 hours at this point from when my water broke. And she actually went to go get that anesthesiologist one more time because now we've got that labor down until I'm getting that urge to push. Well, in the meantime, in those minutes that she was gone to find the anesthesiologist, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to push. So it's almost like she couldn't find the anesthesiologist in time. We were telling her to get back. It was like me and my husband in the room alone. And I'm like, I gotta push. And like, where is everybody? And so the nurse finally came back in and she was like, okay, like, you know, kind of too late for the anesthesiologist. We called your doctor. We're just waiting for her. We have the on-call doctor if we need, like, and so she's trying to prep the room. I was, for some reason, I don't know if the epidural wasn't taken because I was feeling every ounce of that. And so that's the one thing that I would say is the joy of having gone through one drug-free delivery and all the training of, you know, mindful birthing, breathing and yoga I would say I wasn't doing a very good job at this time, but trying to find that place of, you know, even if you think you have the pain medication, it's going to take it all away, you know, and it wasn't. And so you still need to have those skills of being in that moment and, you know, trying to remain calm and breathing through it. And so anyways, the one thing that I would say is easier with a second delivery, because everybody was like, oh, your second delivery is so easy. You just, you know, a few pushes and you're done. Well, I feel like everybody lied to me, but the pushing part was easier. It was like less than 10 pushes. Once my body remembered how to push, it was like less than 10 pushes. And he was a big baby. He was 9 pounds, 6 ounces. Wow. So the doctor definitely was kind of helping maneuver, you know, to get those shoulders out. And so we finally got him out. And let's see, he had the cord wrapped around his neck. So we had the extra party people in the room ready to jump into action. But I heard that first cry and they put him on my chest, and it's like, you know, immediately all of that process just goes away and you're happy holding your baby. So interestingly enough, you think you're done. My case, my placenta did not come out. So we waited to the 30-minute mark. And again, here we are like, okay, like 30 minutes, now we're risking infection. So the doctor had to manually go in and detach, literally with her hand, was detaching my placenta from the uterine wall to get it to come out. And so that was like delivering another baby. That was pretty excruciating. So that was no fun. We think because of some of the issues that I had in trying to get pregnant the second time, that there was some residual scar tissue on the uterine wall, and that scar tissue is where the placenta had attached. That's the doctor's best guess as to what happened there. So anyways, once we finally got that placenta out, my goodness, it was a long road, and everything that I wanted as far as a drug-free delivery just did not happen. I mean, I was pumped so full of everything from antibiotics to that epidural to the Pitocin to, I think they had to give me 2 other things now for the placenta issue to, you know, not be hemorrhaging and all those other types of things. And so, oh my goodness. Yeah, I certainly had my moment of breaking down in the middle of the delivery, just feeling like this was not what I wanted for my little man. But at the end of the day, I was holding my healthy baby, and I was okay. And yeah, and here we are. So,
and there you are. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Did you have Pitocin with the first birth? Okay. Nope. I was going to comment on that because Pitocin contractions are no joke. They feel much different than your own, right? Would you agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's
100%.
why this time they felt like level 10 because they're
Right.
different than your normal contractions.
Yeah. And I knew that going into it. And that's that difference of being able to trust your body and what your body can do naturally versus doing something synthetic that is not natural to your body. And you're trying to push something faster along than it should be. And so, I mean, I kind of knew, and maybe that's part of what went wrong with this whole delivery is I was in my head and I knew like once that Pitocin started that I was like, this is just, not the road that I want to go down, and that fear set in. And then I was being led by the fear instead of just being at peace. And so, yeah, and it makes me sad because it wasn't the delivery that I wanted, but I had a healthy baby. So that's what's most important.
And I always say to mamas, no guilt, no blame, no shame, right? Because every birth is different and you had different things at work at the time, right? You had your husband who's possibly not going to be there. So then therefore, you agree to get a little bit of a natural induction, with the sweeping. So you have the cards that you're dealt with,
Yep. So true. So true. So, yeah, I had that breakdown. As soon as I got the epidural, I was in tears. And my husband, God bless him, knows me so well. And he was just like, stop beating yourself up. You're so hard on yourself. And he's like, I don't like seeing you in pain. And, this is okay. And so.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so tell me about him. Is he breastfeeding well? What's he like?
And I think that's the other thing that I get into my head where I feel like it wasn't the delivery that I wanted for him because now you've introduced all these, drugs and everything at this point. And so I do feel like we were a little slower to find our groove. And again, I only have my other delivery and boy to compare it to because, everything clicked like that. We've been monitoring him for the jaundice, which is a side effect of the Pitocin. Hi, puppies. Yes, my little grunter. I call him my little gremlin baby. He grunts. Pretty much. He's a grunter. And so then they were monitoring for the jaundice. I don't know. I mean, the breastfeeding has been going well, but he lost a lot of weight dramatically the day we left the hospital. And so that kind of put me on edge where I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to be breastfeeding like every hour to 2 hours. And like, they had me going back to the pediatrician, 3 times before his 2-week checkup, just to get those weight checks and to check the jaundice. And so that was an added challenge because I couldn't just kind of go home and rest. The day after I was released from the hospital, it was like packing up. I was up all night with the newborn, and then it was like pack up and get to the doctor's office the next day. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I haven't even got my bearings yet. I was just a mess that whole day. So, despite that, I think there's a little bit of that slow finding our groove, getting connected. But we've got there, and so he is breastfeeding very well now. He's a chunky monkey. He at his 2-week checkup, he was back up to 9 pounds 11 ounces, and just growing from there.
Is he? What was his birth weight?
9 pounds 6 ounces.
6 ounces. And when was that? When was his
was the date he was born? November 19th. And he was 22 inches long too.
Wow.
So, and then at the 2-week check, he was already at 23 inches. And
he's a boy. How do you spell his name?
Micah.
Micah. Does he have a middle name?
James.
Micah. What does Micah come from?
Micah is
Micah.
One of the biblical prophets from the Old Testament. So
tell me about that. Like the connection to that name.
Well, it's kind of like a warrior for justice in the Old Testament, one of the prophets. That kind of fought for justice. And so I felt like he was already a warrior. Like I said, 2 years to even get pregnant. We thought it was a molar pregnancy, and we couldn't find his heartbeat when I was first pregnant with him. And we were going to go in for the procedure, which would have been my third procedure at this point to remove that pregnancy. And then when we went in for that last ultrasound, we found the heartbeat. And so again, this is just my little miracle baby. And actually the name itself translates to miracle of God or gift of God. And so, yeah, I just prayed so hard for this little man. So he is my miracle. And I feel like we've already beat so much from, yeah, getting pregnant and
You
being
had
pregnant.
COVID. You had COVID in pregnancy. Oh my gosh.
So yes,
Wild.
this is certainly my miracle baby and my gift from God. So
He is. He
yeah.
is. He's got a lot of things to do for this lifetime.
Yes, he does.
Is he asleep? Can you
Yes,
turn
I
maybe
think.
you turn around so we could see him. Hi,
Mhm.
baby. May the long time sun shine upon you.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Anything else you want to share with the mamas?
Oh, goodness. Man, just what a blessing it is to have a baby. I'm all emotional still. Those hormones are still pumping. And then my husband's been gone. He was home for that first week, like I said, because he had to go back to work. So he's been gone, and he comes home Saturday. So that was that kind of that time pressure we were on.
Where does he work?
He's a freelance in production, and so
Oh.
if he takes time off of work, we don't get paid, and it's Christmas.
Production, like it for the movies?
For reality television.
Oh.
Yes, yes. So, yeah. So, anyways, we were just kind of this final push here at the end of the year. But he comes home Saturday, and he's going to be home until like mid-January. So we're going to have some good quality family time. But it's been a dose of reality, juggling two.
Yeah, you're like, this is the reality television. This one right here.
Right, exactly. Oh my goodness. So, but he's so supportive, and he's grateful every day that, he tells me I'm a strong woman, and he never worries about our babies while he's gone.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, just what a blessing it is to have a baby, and no matter what the road or the path is to get there, it's a true blessing. And as my husband says, don't be so hard on yourself. And yeah, just to hold a healthy baby is the best thing in the world.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I will